When it comes to the work week, my hump day's tomorrow, right, McKenna? I'm just starting up the hill. I'm at the bottom. I'm at the bottom. You guys are almost too pressed. Thanks, Scott or Derek. Listen, so I guess Monday, somebody said that their hand was on fire and they were going really fast and it slowed down yesterday. The other part of this equation is we have 6 people that join us remotely every day, right? And obviously, it would probably been very cumbersome for the subs to set up the whole video thing. So welcome back if you're out there in cyberspace. Peace in.
Yeah, peace in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isaac said, that's Isaac's famous thing from last year. Peace in,
Yeah,
Julia.
super famous. World famous.
So we are back. And so for those out there and for your benefit, Mackenzie, we probably won't get through much today as far as new notes, but I don't know what, if they just, it sounds like someone just gave you the notes and there wasn't discussion, or was there?
There
was talk about things that you went.
I just read it.
There was?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Geist left really in-depth on stuff.
Oh, good.
The next day, he kind of, whoever the next sub was, I don't remember.
Wow. So you were all here, and we've got half the class saying that he got really in depth, and the other class saying that there was nothing.
No, he literally didn't go in-depth. Mr. Geist was there. The other guy was there.
Don't talk about a lot.
Monday, there was too much.
Really?
It was good.
Give me one thing you learned Monday that you didn't know before Monday, besides the notes. Yeah,
The sub guy,
Mr. Geis,
yeah, someone in his, I don't know, what?
just reminder that we're like, you're live to the
I
world.
don't know his name.
Yeah, I know.
His like grandma or something was on Ellis Island because he
Oh.
prayed about that for a while.
That's great stuff.
Yeah. Thanks, Elise.
All right, does anybody know the other nickname for World War I? By the way, Sid, do you think they called it World War I in 1914? That would be kind of very pessimistic, wouldn't it? We are coming, listen, we're coming out of the progressive movement, which another way you can look at the progressive movement is you could use this word, optimism. Why can I use that word for progressives? Because the whole idea behind progressivism was what? That we can do what? What did we learn the last 2-3 weeks? We as humans can make either heaven on earth, utopia. We can definitely make the world a better place. We can make progress. We can make this constant progress and be progressive because we can, because we're humans and because we're coming out of this, as mentioned in chapel this morning, the Enlightenment and this idea that, hey, is there really a need for God? We've gone through the Industrial Revolution. We've got all of these conveniences of modern life. This period is called the modern era. Like we use the word modern differently. Like we think it does. It means like it's up to date, right? But back then, this is called the modern era because now we live in something called the postmodern era. Have you ever heard that phrase before, that word before, postmodern? That's what a lot of people call the world we're living in now. So optimism was a big thing. And then you had this happen. And they called it the Great War, or they called it the... See, that's not in the notes, is it? He said that?
He said that.
Yeah, okay. The war to end all wars. Because surely humanity, with our progress, right? Wars have been with us forever. Well, those of us that know the Bible know that wars will be with us forever, right? This isn't it. One of the quotes in chapel just now was, and I didn't catch the whole thing, I got to look it up now later. See, that's the kind of students we hope you'll be. Like you hear something, and then can you imagine at least someone being such a nerd, like they'll hear something in class, it's not in the notes, it's not going to be on the test, and then they on their own go look it up. Wouldn't that be something, Riley?
That would be something.
That would be great, right? So when I heard this quote in chapel, I know the part of it that said, Time is short, time is long, but eternity is short. Did you catch that? Anybody else catch that?
Yeah, what the-
I forget who said it, but I gotta look it up now and the whole philosophy behind that. But we get to this 1914 and this war breaks out, but that progressive idealism, optimism that said we can make the world a better place is kind of still there. So surely this is going to be the war to end all wars, right? Humans are finally gonna get it. We've been dealing with wars for 6,000 years, and this will really open everybody's eyes, and we'll never have to go through this again, except the next generation did, didn't they? Because now we know, looking back, that there's a World War II. Well, I use that word idealism. Who do we associate idealism with? What president? Woodrow Wilson, and his quote. By the way, when we talk about progressivism today, I've been talking for the last month about that word because you're going to hear it. If you haven't heard it, if you don't listen to the news, if you're not into politics, that's great. But if you haven't heard it, that word progressive to a lot of people is a very negative word, and we're learning about the origin of it, and then we're learning about what it means today, and what does it mean to be progressive today in relation to your thoughts on America and the foundation of America and what many of us cherish as the biblical foundation and the heritage that we inherited and how we love it. And the idea that today progressives maybe don't love it as much as we do, we're finding out. Well, back then, there wasn't quite that divide as we have today. Wilson, his quote, America is the only idealistic nation in the world. It brings to mind, there's a phrase, American, starts with an E. What if I spot you the next letter? What? Exceptionalism. Why all of a sudden he's right in the small? What does that mean, American exceptionalism? That means that of almost 200 countries in the world, some countries are better than others, and this country's good, except America's better. This country's okay, except America's better. American exceptionalism, this idea that, it might sound prideful, right? We're going to talk about the cause of World War I, nationalism, that whole idea of having pride in your nation. It might sound prideful, boastful, maybe even sinful to put so much pride or patriotism or love for your country to say that, hey, in all the world, America is exceptional. And there's always been this belief that we're exceptional. We're different. We were at the beginning, that city upon a hill. Remember that phrase? We were going to be a place in the world that showed the rest of the world, hey, people can live in godly communities. It doesn't have to be a theocracy, but people can just live in harmony and peace and prosperity with each other because we're all brethren, right? We can do that. That can actually be a place, city upon a hill. And then Wilson kind of shares that, but not in the same way. In Wilson's view, coming out of the progressive movement, maybe not so much because of our godly heritage, just because we are. Because of this idea that humans can solve all problems, and when it comes to humans and the nations they live in, we happen to be in the most developed, most successful, most prosperous. We're the country that's going to be that light to the other countries in the world. Maybe not in such a theological way, maybe not such a spiritual way, but in a humanist way, to make the world a better place. Wilson's vision was, this is the greatest country ever, and we want to export our ideals to the rest of the world. And if the rest of the world can only see, and we can be an example to them of people that can be virtuous and live in peace, and democracy can really work. Because if you don't remember, there's still most of the world this time not living in democracy. 140 years after America, still most of the people in the world were living under kings, queens, dictators. Sadly, too many people live in that situation today. And we're gonna, by the way, America is gonna achieve this high place in the world. America is gonna achieve this place where people can look to, not by conquest, but by our virtue, because he's so idealist. Wilson oh, there's that man again. Who is that? What's his first and middle name?
William Jennings.
We've been talking about that guy forever. William Jennings Bryan, I told you at the time when we talked about him before, running for president, he's probably the most popular politician to never be president. I mean, the guy's around forever, and when Wilson becomes president, who does he choose to be Secretary of State? William Jennings Bryan. The only problem is Wilson was a educated man, a scholarly man. He was president of what university? Is that up there? Princeton. He was governor of New Jersey. He was an administrator. Wilson was a great governor, a person that was politically astute. There's only one problem. He had no idea about foreign affairs. And he's going to become president at a time when the world, within 2 years or a year, is going to be embroiled in the greatest war the world's ever seen. He's not really equipped for that. He'd rather not deal with that. And in the first part of your notes, right away, he didn't have to get involved in World War, but there was a big situation going on at our southern border, not like the situations going on at our border today, but a situation in the country to the south of us, Mexico, who was a developing country, who was seen by many countries in the world as a place to invest in as they were growing and developing. Mexico, very rich in resources. And you understand what I'm saying? By other countries were interested, because if you are not developed yet and you're just developing and you're a company in Germany, you might want to invest in something that's just starting out, right? If you were on the ground floor of Apple, would you be rich right now? If when Apple was first established and went on the stock market and you bought a bunch of shares of Apple, how rich would you be right now? I've actually heard people talk about the numbers that if you would have just invested, like, I forget, a really small amount of money 40 years ago, how much you would have now if you would have put all that money in Apple then, right? So when something's first starting out, it's very attractive if you think it's going to continue to grow to invest there. Well, not only were we investing there, but other countries were investing there, and problems broke out in Mexico because, just like we talked about with the progressive movement, there's a lot of corruption. Mexico is being run basically by today you might call him like a mafia type guy. The book calls it the Mexican muddle. In other words, confusion, problems, crises to our south. Their Mexican leader, Porfirio Diaz, was a dictator, and he was facing rebellion in 1911, right before the election of 1912. He gets ousted by Francisco Madero. Madero and Huerta were actually two of the leaders that were leading this rebellion against Diaz. Madero then gets assassinated by so-called ally, Huerta. Have I ever told you that power corrupts? Did I tell you that absolute power corrupts?
Absolutely.
Do you understand that? That's something you always remember from school, Caleb. Power corrupts. How are you going to use that in your life? How are you going to use that simple little phrase, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely? How's that going to in any way benefit your choices in the future? I know, it's an on-the-spot question.
Oh, you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, like, can you say it one more time? Just maybe.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's a common, every kid, every student in every high school and in college, if you're in a history class or a business class, ethics class, psychology, whatever it is, you're gonna hear that phrase again. How are you gonna apply that to life?
Just try to stay humble in some areas, keep praying to God because.
In your personal life, good job. It can keep you humble, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I might think I got it all together, but if I learn from history that, man, power is a very powerful thing. Power can do things to people. Power can change people, right? Let's say you become successful and what's one thing we equate with power? Money, right? If you have more money, you have more influence. You could have more influence or power. You might think you're pure as the driven snow, but you always have to remember that power can corrupt you too. Also, that you might have someone that you really like, like, oh, Trump's got all these people at his rallies and there's people that are big fans of Biden or whoever it is your political fandom belongs to. Those people are human too. And they can be easily corrupted, right? So Diaz was corrupt. He was rebelled against because of his corrupt ways, right? And what happened to the people that were, hey, we're not corrupt. We're rebelling against the corruption. We're the good guys. We're going to change life in Mexico and make it better for everybody. We're tired of living under this dictator, right? What happens as soon as they get rid of him? Now who wants to be dictator? They do. In fact, one of them kills the other for that lust for power. Does that make sense? Power and influence. And Huerta becomes way worse than Diaz was as far as the brutality and the way he ruled. Well, Wilson, the idealist, Wilson, the person that's got this optimism and thinking that, hey, America could help this situation. And he is certainly not a fan of government by murder, right? Listen, Mexico, we want to help you develop. In fact, this could be a win-win. You heard that phrase before? A win-win situation is I help you, you help me. I'm going to invest in your country. America's going to win. You're going to win because America's investing. We got this great relationship, but we can't deal with people that are killing their own people just because they go against them politically. So he feels that, America feels something has to be done. So he sends military aid to get rid of this Huerta. Huerta is worse than Diaz was. And he supports these two guys. Here's another phrase you might remember from 5th grade. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. What does that mean? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. First of all, is it true? Is it always true? Second, first of all, what's it mean? Second, is it true? Yeah.
First, I mean, if you have like a common enemy, then they're allies.
Yeah. And could you possibly become allies with someone that long-term isn't your friend? Right? I mean, we all want to solve, when there's crises or problems in the world, don't we want to solve them like now? Right? So this is one thing that people do, and it's pervasive throughout our culture and society. People are so short-sighted. You understand what that means? Nobody really looks at things long-term. Like everything that happens, like something will be big on the news today, 2 days from now, everybody forgets it. You can apply it to every aspect of society. Right? You know that one of my passions besides like history and politics is sports. Well, it's even worse than that, right? Like it's just about today. Nobody sees things long term. Same thing here. Hey, Pancho Villa, we're going to help him because he's against the present enemy. So right now, he's our friend because he's the enemy of our enemy. So we can look back, hindsight is 2020, and we can look back and say, boy, that wasn't very smart. That wasn't a very good move. That wasn't, well, we have the luxury of looking back and saying, hey, oh, I told you so. Yeah, right. Well, we're going to support 40 years ago, there was a huge world conflict in the Middle East. Those two countries that you've heard of that sound very similar to each other, they're neighbors, Iran and Iraq, they were having a pretty good-sized war. And America having a vital interest in the Middle East because the engine of our democracy has been lubricated by oil, pun intended, get it? Right, oil. And so we always have needed oil. Well, if they're having a war over there, it's going to affect the supply of oil that comes to America, so we got to get involved. Guess whose side we went on? Iraq's. Why? Because guess who was our main enemy at that time? Iran. In fact, the enemy was so large that some of you may have heard this in history, that at one point in 1979, Iran took 52 Americans hostage for like a year, over a year. So Iran was our like public enemy number one, and they were in this war with their neighbor Iraq. So who are we going to support? We're going to support Iraq. Well, 10 years later, something you may have heard of, Desert Storm. You ever heard of that? Maybe you got grandpa, uncle, somebody that you heard served over there in the Desert Storm, the Gulf War. What happened? Who became our enemy then? Iraq. We're like, and people have this like judgmental, yeah, well, Iraq's using those weapons that well, yeah, guess what? We were helping them defeat our enemy number one at the time. And then Iraq became public enemy number one. And the big news was, well, they're using our weapons against us. They were, weren't they? We were supplying them with weapons to defeat Iran because Iran was our number one enemy. Was it wrong of us to do that at that time? Is it easy to look back and say, look at America, nice job. And now Iraq's using our own weapons that we helped them defeat Iran with, they're using them against our troops. Well, things change. And again, people are so short-sighted, they can't see but 6 inches in front of their face, and they don't want to think things through. What were we supposed to do 10 years before that? Support Iran, who had declared themselves, they want to see Israel wiped off the face of the earth, our close ally there, and then they would love to see, maybe even more than Israel wiped off the face of the earth, America wiped off the face of the earth. So anyway, that's what's going on with Mexico at this time. You all stay awake. Hopefully you learned something outside the notes. Pancho Villa. Anybody ever heard of that guy before yesterday? There's one in each class. Second period, we had somebody that heard of Pancho Villa. Yeah, he's one heard of Pancho Villa. Legendary figure in Mexico. Well, he becomes a declared enemy of America. We were helping him defeat Huerta, and now he's public enemy number one. And he's killing Americans. So Wilson sends people to Mexico, more than once. He ends up killing 18 engineers in Mexico. He crosses the border. Pancho Villa's, whatever you want to call his gang, crosses the border into New Mexico and kills 17 more Americans in New Mexico. Can you imagine if that was the news today? Wouldn't that be big news all over the TV? Like someone from Mexico brought a gang into America, into New Mexico, and killed 17 Americans. We'd be losing our minds right now, wouldn't we? Demanding that we go like bomb the place or something. Well, that's what and this is the guy that we had just helped. We just helped him defeat the Huerta guy, who was like the worst ever, because we got to clean up. Remember, we already stated we're the policemen in Latin America, right? The Roosevelt corollary said, hey, if there's problems in this side of the world, by the way, we have told European countries who were investing in Mexico. Hey, we got this. Remember that? You had the Monroe Doctrine, you had the Roosevelt Corollary that said, if there's problems going on in this end of the world, Europe, don't worry, we'll fix it. We'll handle it. So Wilson, who comes into office with no foreign affairs experience at all, his Secretary of State, William Jennings Bryan, may be a great populist candidate for president and has all these great ideas for America. They have no idea what they're dealing with when it comes to the rest of the world. So this guy we'll talk more about. General John Pershing becomes a major leader for us in World War I, nicknamed Blackjack. He goes down there. He's going to hunt down Pancho Villa. Never finds him. Years go by. Pancho Villa ends up dying in like 1923 in some other battle he's having with other people in Mexico. We never found him. We stopped him because he had to go into hiding, but we never found him. Sending our best and brightest down there to do it. Wilson, we don't go into depth in this, but there were also problems going on down here in Hispaniola. If I say Hispaniola, David says, oh yeah, that's the name of that island that has two countries on it. Haiti and, you're obviously not a baseball fan. Haiti and Dominican Republic. There's a lot of Dominicans in Major League Baseball. Anyway, so he's got problems going on down there. So here, what's the gist of it? The idealist Wilson comes into office, and what hits him in the face? The real world, realism. This is not going to be, he's facing things that he's probably not ready for. Okay, you already have all this, but hopefully, I was hoping kind of that someone out there would remember from 5th grade, it's the way we described World War I. Europe was a powder keg. Did anybody? Isn't that sad, Isaac? Isn't that sad?
What?
That nobody remembers anything from 5th grade. They remember like Skyview.
Well, I wasn't here.
They don't even remember, like they'll do a country report. Half of them don't remember what country they did. You know? Bella, do you remember what country? Oh, okay. Oh, I remember that.
We had a fight over it.
I know.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. I'm like, oh man.
And I got.
Am I gonna have to have parent-teacher conferences because Elise wants France and Bella wants France and I think there was someone else in there.
What did you do? Which now I like Italy.
That's good. Paris, Rome, you know.
Yeah, they're like the same thing.
No, I thought that.
All right, the powder keg. What's going on in Europe? In the early 1900s, actually in the late 1800s, two major players in Europe have been at odds. They had a war in 1870 called the Franco-Prussian War. We don't have time to get into it, but Germany didn't become the Germany we know as Germany until long after the Great Britain that we know, because they're the islands across the channel. And France has kind of been the same shape, more or less, for the last several hundred years. Germany didn't coalesce. Germany didn't become the Germany we know until after those other established European countries did. So there would be a part of Germany was called Prussia. Not Russia, but Prussia. Well, anyway, there was a war between France and the Prussians, who were basically Germans. You following this? So that was like a generation before this. So there's still hostility. The war's over, but kind of like with the North and South, when the Civil War is over, all the Southerners didn't just go like this. Oh, okay, we're all back together now. No, that's not the way it works. And 150 years later, there's still a lot of people in the South that are still trying to fight the war, right? So that's what's going on in Europe. There's a lot of competition. There's, well, let's get to it. A way to remember the causes of World War I. What led to that spark? You've got this huge barrel of gunpowder. If it's just sitting there, what harm is it, McKenna? It's potential harm, right? You guys learn about potential energy in science, right? You got potential energy, kinetic energy. But right now, it's got a lot of potential energy, but it's just sitting there. Unless someone provides a spark. In other words, you've got all of this combustibility. You've got Germany and France and Great Britain and Austria-Hungary, which we know today there's an Austria and a Hungary, but at this time it's part of a larger empire. Austria-Hungary, it was called together. You've got all of these competing European countries that are all packed into this, if you look at the world, kind of a small area, isn't it? I mean, if you think about, look at this. All of these powerful countries are concentrated right here in that vast world. If you think about it geographically, they're all trying to compete with one another for prominence and prosperity. And of course, one way you show your dominance is through the military. So militarism's a big thing. M-A-I-N, militarism. And they all kind of blend together. Militarism and imperialism, kind of the same thing. Imperialism means that you are looking to, if you could see the word empire and imperial, does that make any sense? When you're building an empire, you're called, an imperialist country is one that seeks to control places other than its own country. That's called imperialism. So that, you got militarism, you got these alliances that are forming because these countries are competing together and they don't trust each other. And why should they? It's been a history of war. How do we get that map's not color coded, but if you look at a map and it's color coded according to the borders, how did those borders get established? Hello? One word, war, right? That's how the borders get established, through wars. So they don't trust each other. They've got histories of wars. So they are making secret alliances with one another. Secret alliances that, of course, end up not being so secret, right? So while you may be making deals with other countries, eventually the other countries are going to find out. And so you've got militarism, alliances, you've got imperialism, and then you've got nationalism. This idea that my nation, the country that I live in, different than patriotism. Patriotism, just love for your country. Nationalism is my country's better. My country deserves more. Does that make sense? Difference between patriotism, loving your country, being loyal and devoted to your country, is not the same as nationalism, which says my country is better / deserves more / has been treated poorly throughout history, so it's time for us to rise up. And if you think about Germany, Germany coming late to dinner, when I say late to dinner, we know that the British had established an empire long 200 years before this, right? We got the colonies that were British. They were in Australia. You got the French, who also you learned about in early American history, that were in this part of the world. Africa is divided up between the French and the Dutch and the British. Germany was like, do you hear much about the German Empire? So they're kind of, again, they're a later developing country trying to assert themselves right in the middle of Europe, surrounded by all these other countries that maybe had a head start. So Germany gets blamed a lot for World War I. Some people think unjustly, other people think justly, because that spark, what was the spark again? It's not on the screen. Don't read your notes. What was the spark that started World War I? Something like one person gets killed and all of a sudden we're at war. The whole world's going to be at war because one person got shot. Is that really how it worked? Yeah, that's kind of how it worked. Actually, not one, but two. Because the missus had to go too. Who was it?
Assassination of the Archduke of Austria-Hungary.
Right. What was his name? Franz Ferdinand, right? And his wife, they were both killed by a group of people that were, again, talking about nationalism. And this part of Europe is called the Balkans. If you go over here, see Italy, you go just north and east of Italy, where Europe and Asia collide. See this right here? You got Turkey, Asia Minor. This is Greece. When you get over here to east of Italy and then south. On this map, it still has Yugoslavia up there, Bulgaria, Greece, especially the northern part, which is Macedonia. You've got a place, and these countries, sometimes throughout in recent history, you've had a place called Bosnia that was its own country, and then it was Bosnia-Herzegovina. You've got Serbia that wasn't always just its own country, Serbia. All these countries in that area that are all kind of under the control of Austria-Hungary. Well, you've got a group of people, their ethnicity is Serbian. They don't want to be under control of Austria-Hungary. They want to be their own country. So when the Archduke comes to town in Sarajevo, there's a group of them called the Black Hand. Speaking of like mafia type gangs, right? They're like in the shadows, get it? The Black Hand. They're in the shadows, in the dark, doing things secretly to one day rise up and make Serbia a country. They decide to plot to kill the Archduke because they've had it with Austria-Hungary. Frankly, Austria-Hungary's had it with them. So they tried to bomb, I'm running out of time. They tried to bomb his car. It didn't work. Well, the driver of the Archduke's car went off course and just happened to go down a street where this guy, Gavrilo Princip, was also part of this Black Hand, and like, whoa, look what just fell in my lap. There's the Archduke right there. So he just walks up and shoots the Archduke and his wife. Austria-Hungary, obviously, not real happy with the leaders of this place called Serbia that wasn't really an established nation, put a bunch of demands on Serbia. In Austria-Hungary's ear is Germany. Hey, you gonna put up with that? You gain your notes. What's up, Seth? How's that freshman team looking? East? No? So Jay, what's your thought?
What? Well, I have the plan for the Browns, how they're gonna make the playoffs. It used to be the Browns.
Okay, make sure you share with me how Chargers, you got all the plans for the 11 teams too, right?
No, I have the next 3 games is how we make the playoffs.
Oh, well, how would you think we're not? What if you're fans of the, let's compare this. If you're fans of the Chargers, how they make it? You think their fans are happy with them?
Who did they lose to?
What's the record?
5-8.
There's one big group.
We beat Detroit next week. You beat Ravens, go on the bye, beat the Ravens again.
Well, you should be thinking you're gonna beat anything.
You won't tell me either.
Ooh.
It's really cool. People have to write up like that, and then it makes it really sad. They didn't care about what
Did not contact.
No, I didn't.
Hallelujah! 141. You guys want to go 141? I want to see them.
Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for that.
I have an idea.
Alright, Allison, you have to tell me later.
Main cause of voter
Alright, let's go, Steve.
He gave me a flower. That's not fair. He gave me a flower too.
Yeah, that was how you get a lot more.
And he said he was gonna visit me. Oh, yeah, I'll show you.
Oh, wow. Oh,
What's the note?
Spending myself.
Alright, look,
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
Liam, see, some of you,
No.
And the hope is that you don't follow the pattern of the world, and when you're juniors and seniors, you're still playing school. The hope is that, wow, maybe at least some of you will be reached in a way that says, hey, and so I've seen it come to fruition just this year, based on fifth grade, now into junior high math, that there's been a lot of progress made, so keep that going. But what I mean by playing school is, like, you kind of like take every day, like every day's new. Well, that's not how math works. Like, you have to, like, if you're not embracing this yet, if you're constantly fighting against it, there's literally nothing any teacher can say or do that's going to help you through the confusion if all you're doing is, when you show up to class at 11:32 or whatever every day for 40 minutes, that you're attentive then, and then you don't really care about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Matthew, wouldn't it be great if the teachers knew that, like, when they're teaching something, that the students actually were interested in it?
Yeah.
That would
be great.
Like, is it right for the teacher to be more interested in your math progress than you are? I know that sounds, you maybe never thought of it that way, but is that, like, legitimate? Kenny's
Yeah.
like,
You get paid for it.
Kenny's
Yeah.
like, Mr. Franklin.
You get paid for it.
It's your life, right, Isaiah?
It's your job.
Isaiah, are you definitely gonna work in the math field when you get older?
No.
Maybe you will, maybe you won't, you don't know. First of all, Isaiah, and everybody out there, you have no idea, okay? You might have these grand plans, but for people, 98% of the people in the world, whatever they thought they were gonna be when they were sitting in your seat, not what the Lord had intended for them. So keep your mind open to whatever the Lord has in store for you. But my point is that I'm kind of hoping that we're getting to the point where you're like, hey, I like being a student because I like learning things. Because I know the more I learn, the more influence I can have with other people. And the more influence I can have with other people, especially if I'm a Christian, that can open a lot of doors, you know, not stealing off what was said in chapel, but not just for this world, not to be wise in this world, but to show people like, hey, we do all this for God's glory, right? So have a successful mindset. Some of you are almost already there at such a young age. It's pretty awesome. Unfortunately, I've been doing this long enough that some people are like juniors and seniors and they still haven't got there yet. But I'm counting on you, Kingston, to be the next crop of students that are really going to get it. So anyway, say all that to say this. We've spent the last 2 days, or you've spent the last 2 days, hopefully reviewing and doing it like you really want to learn it. Nadia, because can I do it for you? I do it for you almost every day, right? I go to the board, I do the problem. Can I do it for you tomorrow?
If you wanted to.
No. I can't. So you got to want it. So you're telling me that on Monday, you were assigned both pages?
The problem that we didn't do.
Did you go over any of the answers?
Yeah, the first page.
First page, okay. Page 153 then. Let's go over those answers because we still got something to do today to get ready for tomorrow's test. Page 153, number 25. By the way, who's not here today? Wow. I can go to the house.
Let's go.
JJ's not.
JJ's moved back to Florida. Can't even fix it?
No.
No, he got abandoned us.
All right. Number 25, the answer is negative 115. Remember, if you missed it, mark it. Too often I look out there and I see people not marking things. I just gave that big long speech and we got people sitting in here right now that have neither their book. Well, open your book. Again, you can't do anything about yesterday, but you can do something about today.
Why are you laughing?
I'm not laughing.
Making him noise.
He's preaching.
Yeah, that's what.
I've never heard anything like
I think you never heard of black preachers before.
I don't think they sound like that.
Some
They
people
don't
got
go.
already.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, but they don't go.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you can't stand that. Well, you can, that's right.
Well, yeah.
Hmm. Nene rhymed with JJ. All right. Okay, listen. I gave that big speech and we're not getting anywhere. Ready? Allison, number 26. 576. So far you got negative 115, 576, negative 45, 336. I'm looking out there, I'm seeing hardly anybody marking. This is a great thing, JB, because that tells me you got all 4 of those correct.
4.
25, 26, 27, and 28. You got them all right.
It was 26, 27, and 28.
Are you serious? Across the top, negative 115, 576, negative 45, 336. I just gave that big speech and I got so many kids that didn't even know what I was saying in the last 2 minutes.
Not 3.
They were like, not even here. Number 29, 18 baskets.
Go.
Number 30, 4 inches. Number 31, 8 meters. Number 32, oh no, 6.5 centimeters. You mean the answer wasn't a whole number? Is that possible, Maddie?
No. Yes.
Number 33, 20 square inches. Number 33 is 20 square inches. Number 34, 27 centimeters squared. Number 35, 60 square yards. Number 36,
60 not square.
let's see, number 36, what are they looking for? Oh, there's 2 possibilities. 35 feet or 40 feet.
Okay.
35? 35 feet or 40 feet?
So,
Because the ticket window could be 30 foot, could have either a 30-foot side or a 20-foot side to satisfy those requirements. Number 37, C is less than or equal to 108. 108 was the answer to 37. Number 38, X is less than negative 12. Number 38, switch the sign because you divided by a negative and multiplied by a negative 3. Number 39, H is greater than negative 4. The sign did not switch because you did not divide by a negative. You divided by positive 24. Number 40, K is greater than or equal to 57. Why greater than? Because you had to multiply both sides by negative 1. Have we got that down pat yet? That when you have negative X, let's just throw something random out there. Negative X equals 4. If negative X equals 4, then positive X equals negative 4. Because how do I make negative 1 times something equals positive 1? Negative 1 times 1 is not positive 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 gives me positive 1, right? So if this is a negative 1x, how do I find out what positive 1x is? I got to multiply both sides by negative 1. And that means x equals negative 4. So when it comes to greater than or less than, if following here, if negative x is greater than 4, then positive x, I got to multiply by negative 1, is less than negative 4. Since I treated them by giving their opposites, do you understand that multiplying by negative 1 is the opposite Remember we started this 6 weeks ago? What's the opposite of 4? What's the opposite of 12? What's the opposite of negative 16? Positive 16. How do you achieve opposite? You multiply by negative 1. What's the opposite of greater than? That's why you switch the sign, because you're treating them by their opposites. And remember what math is, basically, Jordan. We tried to get through to you a few weeks ago. An equation is basically a statement. It's basically a true sentence. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That's truth, right? So if I'm going to continue with truth and I multiply these two things by their opposites, well, then I got to do the opposite of greater than to stay true to the whole problem. Yeah,
I just realized how easy multiplying by negative is.
great.
Because 12 times 1 is 12. And 12, in my brain before, for some reason, 12 times negative 1 was like, I don't-
Really?
yeah. So it's just the opposite. It's like, wow, thank you.
All right. Number 41. What'd they do wrong? What'd they do wrong in 41? That you're not going to do wrong on tomorrow's test. You're going to do this correctly. You're not going to be them. Emily,
They switched the sign.
why did they switch the sign? Should they have switched the sign? No. They mixed up adding and subtracting with multiplying and dividing. You only do that if you're multiplying or dividing by a negative. You don't do it when you're just adding or subtracting. And they mixed those two rules up. They were subtracting 7, so they go, oh no, negative subtraction, I gotta switch. No. I, Jordan Carpenter, do solemnly swear that tomorrow I will not switch the sign if I subtract one sign and the other.
Yeah.
Number 42, what did they do wrong? Jordan?
They didn't switch the sign.
Yes, and since they were dividing by negative 6, they should have switched the sign. Only when you multiply or divide. All right. I was going to do it differently. We're already down to 25 minutes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take on page 154. I'm telling you in advance that if you do well on page 154 in the next half hour, your confidence level should go way up for tomorrow. Ready? Number 1. You're all doing number 1 right now. And listen, you can't sit there. Matthew, based on what I was talking about earlier, are you taking this test tomorrow for you or for me? Not your mom either? Not Mrs. Vogel? Not your dad? Not grandpa? Not your dog? You're taking it for you, right? So would it do you any good to just sit there and not do this problem right now? Would it? No, it wouldn't. So you should be done with number 1, are you?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Logan, do you have to show your work? I'm sorry, Logan. Yes. That's just a way of it in math, people. Because the one thing I do have to care about, Matthew, which I care about anyway, right? I already said I care more about your getting it than you do. But the one thing my job is to make sure you're ready for the next level, right? So if I send you there and don't make you show your work, oh yeah, Mr. Franken, yeah, he doesn't make us show our work. Isn't he cool? Yeah, real cool. Now you go to the next level and you don't know what you're doing. That was real cool.
It was pretty cool.
Wasn't that so loving, Ryan?
It was.
Like, he didn't make us do our work. He loves us so much. He didn't want to make us.
Hey, dog.
All right, ready? Your answer should have been S minus 6 equals 39. Boy, I hope we got off to a very good start because this is like really basic. Matthew, what do I have to do to both sides? Bushling? Add 6, right? Plus 6, S equals 45. If I told you to check it, what would you do? You'd put a 45 in here for the S, and is it true?
Yeah.
You're right. Next one, go. We're running out of time already. Number 2. By the time I write it down, you should be done. These are the basics. we're going back in numbers 1 and 2 to about as basic as you can get. There is no way that on November 17th, we're almost 3 months into school already,
That's
that
crazy.
you should not be able to do numbers 1 and 2. X plus 12 equals negative 2.
I know.
What do I do, Matthew Kingston? How do I solve this? Subtract 12, x equals negative 14. Remember the rule. When it comes to adding integers, if the signs are the same, just add them together and keep the sign. Next, number 3. Oh no. It's got a decimal in there. This one might take you an extra 30 seconds. There is nothing about the problem that changes except your attitude about working with decimals. That's it. That's the only thing changed. It's the same thing. What do? How do you get rid of the k? Since they're dividing by 2.5, you multiply by, the whole process stays the same. So the fraction bar is a division sign. So if they're taking the k and dividing it by 2.5, I'm going to multiply by 2.5, making sure I do the same thing to both sides. 14.6 times 2.5. Logan remembers when it comes to multiplying decimals, you act like the decimal's not even there until you get to the end. So what do we got here? 0, 3, 2, start with 0, 292.
Yeah. I heard you.
Now, where do I put my decimal point? I got one place there and one place there for a total of 2. 36.50. If Kayla wrote for his answer 36.5, would he be correct?
Yes.
Yes, because Sadie knows that decimals, zeros that hang on the end of decimal numbers, they don't add any value, do they?
No.
Because she knows that 5 is the same as 50 hundredths. Remember that, Kingston?
500.
Number 4. Number 4. What are you going to do with the 24? How do you get rid of that 24? You want to know what V equals. You're on a mission, a quest. We want to know. They got letters in my math. I want to know what that letter is, so I get rid of everything attached to it. Evans, what's 288 divided by 24? You haven't done it yet?
I got
I
it.
was listening to you talking.
You're kind of rushing.
That's why I say to listen to the teacher.
Well, you know what? You need rushed. Yes. 12. 4 is 12. Evans, why did I divide by 24? Because they had multiplied the V by 24. I did the opposite. Number 5. Oh no, it's fractions. How do I get? Oh, guess what else they did, Megan? They put the T on the right.
What? That's preposterous.
Mr. Reagan, they already did that.
Yeah, they already did that in
Yeah, I know, but now they had fraction and.
They already did that too.
They did. They got the K on the right too, didn't they?
I don't.
Wait, I don't.
So how do I get rid of the positive 1/9? I subtract.
1/9.
What's 1/9 minus 1/9?
0.
Okay, at this point, Liam's got his head off of his book, and he's doing the problems on his paper. And at this point, Liam would look at that and go, could that really be the answer? Could T really be 0? You start to question yourself, don't you? Like, did I do that right? Could it be? Yeah. What are you questioning? Did you do?
Look at it.
That's it.
Do the opposite what they did to the letter and do it to both sides. Am I wrong?
No.
Number, what did they do to the Y? They divided by 4.7. Right?
No.
So what are you going to multiply by? Negative 4.7.
Wait, are we on 6?
Yep, we're moving.
I wasn't.
Get you ready for tomorrow so you don't run out of time. If you multiply negative 9.8 times negative 4.7, well, you know your answer is going to be positive, don't you, Liam? because you're multiplying two negatives.
Yeah.
So what is 9.8 times 4.7? Anybody get it yet? Emily,
38.06.
what is it?
That's 38.
You gotta check your location. Coy,
46.06.
46.06. By the way, tomorrow, when you try to turn in your test before the time, and I say, did you check it? You always go like this, yeah. No, I don't mean, did you check it to make sure your answers and all of them? I mean, Emily, did you check, since you have time, and work through that multiplication again to make sure you get it the second time? Coy, that's what we mean by that. Not like, hey, I never make mistakes. I did it and it's done, and I never make mistakes, so I don't have to check it. Kind of boastful, isn't it? Number 7, yeah.
I'm gonna check with you at the end of class or something. Could you go over that one?
Yeah. Number 7, I gotta add 7 to both sides, right? What's different about this one, Christian? Nothing, except you gotta do it not once, but twice. Now you've got 2 things to get rid of. JV, is there anything different? Is the process any different? No, it's just now you gotta do it twice. So Kaylee, when she was younger, she'd be like, I don't even want to do that problem. Because, when she was a child, she thought like a child, she talked like a
Right,
child.
like a child.
And now she's becoming a young woman, she's not thinking like a child anymore, reasoning like a child anymore. Even though she's wearing a sweatshirt. Anyway, some things are forgivable,
I
and,
don't even watch football.
she's growing up in that house, there's nothing she can do about it. All right, I mean, otherwise the house is a very, very, very good house. But not everybody's perfect. Anyway, where we at? Number 7, what'd you get? Because then, after you add 7, you got to divide by 5. What's 127 divided by 5? Christian, what'd you get?
127 divided by 5.
This is number
I know
7.
the answer.
25.4.
25.4, that's what Logan got
That's
too.
what I got too.
I got 125.4.
You gotta check your math. I don't know why you got that one. Hang on, yeah. Number 8. Number 8, same thing. You got 2 things to do. First, you gotta get rid of the 29. So you subtract both sides by 29. What Sadie has to remember is, when she has a negative and she's subtracting from the negative, just combine those 2 numbers and keep it negative. Right? So now it becomes negative 270 or 265, right? So now what's negative 265 divided by negative 5? She knows the answer is going to be positive because she's dividing by 2 negatives, and she gets 53. 53. So you go hiking on a 20-mile hike. How many think that right now, if their family said we're going on a hike and it's 20 miles, you would start crying or start cheering? Who would start crying thinking, oh, no way, I can make it 20 miles? And how many be like, yeah, let's go?
I'd just be like, okay.
I would I do that. I walk crazy in the light.
Okay. All righty then. So Carly, she's going on this 20-mile hike. In the morning, she hikes 8.2 miles. And by 2 p.m., she went another 7.5 miles. Write and solve an equation to find out how many miles you have left. How many miles is she going to go total? 20. What's going to equal 20? Well, what do we know so far? She's gone, they gave us 2 distances.
8.2.
8.2 plus 7.5 plus the unknown. What's the unknown? We'll put an X there. That's what we want to know. Hi, Cameron. We want to know how many miles will she have to add to that to get to 20? Raise your hand if you do not understand what I've done so far. That's what they set up an equation. You know you have to get, gave you these 2 distances. What's left? What's the unknown? That's what a variable is. It stands for the unknown. So I gotta, what can I connect these 2 guys before anything else? It's called combine
Like
terms. Since they're both just constant, they're numbers, they're not variables, I can combine them together. So I can make this, I can rewrite this 15.7 plus X equals 20. You with me? Okay, now how do I get rid of the 15.7? Subtract.
Okay.
So X is gonna equal
4.3.
20 minus 15.7. And you get
4.3.
4. This is going very well. Fives.
Any help?
I'm thinking of.
Oh.
Next, you know that song?
Yeah, I do.
Number 10.
Too many times.
A bookstore offers 3 books in a set for $21.75. Each book costs the same amount. How much does each book cost? How are we gonna solve that problem, Nadia? Forget it, don't do it yet. Don't do number 10 on paper. How are you gonna solve it? Listen to me. They sell a set of books, $21.75, and they're all the same price, but they sell them at 3 and 1. What's the cost of each book? Nadia, don't give me the answer. Tell me how you're gonna solve it. Divide by 3. Yeah.
7.20.
Fine. If they tell you to write an equation, 3 books equals
Right hand side of it.
21.75. 3 books equals 21.75. How much is each book? Divide by 3. See? You see? Setting up the equation isn't that hard. Number 11. A calf weighs 90 pounds. It gains 65 pounds a month. Woo! I thought I ate
Why are you laughing?
Yeah. Why did that laugh come so easily?
I don't know.
And why did I think that you were looking at my midsection?
I was looking at your eyeballs.
How many months will the calf weigh 1,000 pounds? Let's think about this. What's the total we want to get to? 1,000. That's the way I like. I like to set these up backwards. I want to know what I got to get. Something's going to equal 1,000. What do I know so far? So far, the calf already weighs 90. It's going to gain 65 each month. 65 M. Did you follow that? 65. So, how long is it going to take till it gets to 1,000 pounds? Get rid of the 90. 65 M equals 910.
Divided by 60.
So what's 910 divided by 65? Anybody do it yet?
Oh, I'm already hungry.
What?
Anybody do 910 divided by 65? Hello, anybody out there?
Marking on it.
Nobody has done 910 divided by 65 yet? It's taking you that long? Can't do long division? Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, I did the wrong thing.
You trying to do it in your head?
No, I just did the wrong thing.
14 months. So in a little over a year, your little calf's gonna weigh half a ton.
Wow. That's a lot. Delicious thing.
Number 12. A number times 3 subtracted from 20 is -4. Let's translate that English to algebra ease. Ready? Say it for me again. I'm not looking at it right now. One person, read it for me. Nadia.
A number,
Thanks, Nadia.
a number times 3 subtracted from 20 is -4.
A number times 3 subtracted from 20.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
A number. I gotta come up with a letter for a number. A number times 3 subtracted from 20
Oh.
is,
-4.
you see what I did? A number, I'll call it n,
Yeah, I did that too.
times 3. Not minus 20, subtracted from 20. See? Sadie might be tempted tomorrow to write 3n minus 20. No, listen, slow it down. I know I'm telling you to work faster, slow it down. A number times 3 is subtracted from 20. Get it? Is equals -4. Number 13, the sum of 5 times a number and 14 is 9. The sum, I'm going to add two things together, of 5 times a number and 14 is 9. The sum of 5 times a number and 14, two things I'm adding together, give me a sum, is 9. I would subtract 14 from both sides, and I would get n equals -1, right? So for the top one, n's going to equal 8. It's going to equal 8 because you're going to subtract 20, you get -24. 3 goes into 24 8 times. You're going to subtract 20. This isn't a -20, it's a +20.
But they subtracted.
No, they didn't subtract 20, that's what I'm saying. This is a +20.
I
Listen,
know the positive.
20 was subtracted, they didn't subtract.
remember, it was that 3 times the number subtracted from 20. You have to look at the 20 itself. It's not subtracted from anything. It's a +20.
Yes.
So it's saying it's negative.
Subtracted from 20.
This is not -20, that's +20.
It's -3.
Yes.
It equals -4.
Everybody done?
Yep.
You know this thing's a rectangle, so they give you the formula. It's 2L's plus 2W's, or 2 times L plus W. Remember, I like that one better. Anyway, if the perimeter is 28 and the length is 13, how are you going to find the width? Plug them in. Rewrite the formula. Don't be lazy. What's the perimeter? 28. What's the length? 28 equals 26 plus 2W. And now you've got it down to what you've been doing, Jacob. The old two-step. You got to get rid of two things attached to the W. First, 26. 2W equals 2. Then get rid of the 2. W equals 1. Follow that? Yeah. That'd be a long, skinny rectangle. It'd be, what is it? The length is 28 by 1, or 13 by 1.
Wow.
That'd be like that guy on the Cavs talking.
The what?
Taco Fall, he's like 13 by 1. Taco Fall, he's like 7'6", 140 pounds.
Okay.
That's what it looks like. I don't know. Does he weigh that much?
No.
He doesn't weigh
He weighs a
140.
lot.
Taco, I thought
He
was
weighs like,
skinny.
he weighs like 260.
I thought Taco was skinny.
He looks.
Well, when you're
skinny,
7'6".
You said Taco Bell?
No,
Taco Fall.
What's that?
It's a basketball player.
Why? What's some other my family or something? She not want to, she made some taco.
All right. Number 15, same deal. They gave you the perimeter, they give you the width, you can find the length, plug in the formula. Number 16 is a triangle, formula changes. Because now they're talking area. Write the formula. What's the area of a triangle? 1/2 base times height. Listen, they're going to give you either the base or the height. They have to, or you wouldn't be able to do it. Or the area. What did they tell us in this one? They gave us the area. They said the area is 200. They said the base was 25 times h. What's half of 25? 12.5. 200 equals 12.5 times h. How do you get rid of the 12.5? Divide both sides by 12.5, and what do you get? Yeah.
when the
For activity period?
Yeah.
Will you tell juniors they're supposed to be in the home ec room today?
Home ec room, because I
Yes.
thought the announcement was they were coming here, but now it's
It's the home ec
further
room.
instruction, okay?
Yeah.
Listen, do you understand? Don't be lazy, write the formula every time, it's not gonna kill you. And then it's a matter of plugging in numbers, Elise, right? Again, I go back to when you first learned formulas, you were like, oh no, this is so hard, making my life so difficult. No, formulas make your life so easy. Then it's just plug and play.
Yay.
Yeah. Yes. And then we get to the last section, solving the inequality. Remember, it's the same as equations. The only difference with the inequalities is if I multiply or divide by a negative, I gotta switch the sign. That's it. Are you confident?
Mr. Frank?
Yeah.
What's 16 in like?
16, the answer was 16.
That's fun.
200 divided by 12.5.
All we have to do is figure out.
Any questions?
What do you want us to do for homework?
Here's what I would do if I was you, honestly. Kaylee, you know how like there's no study guide, like you could, history, you memorize stuff, right? How could you study from that? Not being real. If the teacher doesn't give you a bunch of problems to do because we just reviewed for the last 3 days, if the teacher doesn't give you more problems to do on your own, what could you do to study from that,
Are you
John?
not giving us
Grab the teacher's copy of the test. No, seriously,
Right against what the big speech at the beginning of class was.
but seriously, you could like, finish the rest of the
Do
page.
you realize this is 2021, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not so naive that I know that at least 75% of you, you're right, you could use the book to just do more practice. By the way, at the back of the book, I think there's pages you can do for practice, but do we not live in a digital age? And you'd have to go a long way to convince me that I just have no access to any, my parents don't let me ever look at a screen at all. You can find lots of places to practice with this. Yes,
So are you giving us?
no,
Okay.
we just spent 3 full class days on nothing but review. That's after 2 weeks ago, we did nothing but stop and review for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
He'll defer to the young lady. He'll defer to the young lady. Go ahead.
I'm almost an app that I can use to like hide my problems and then I can open it and it tells me what I do.
What's it called?
I don't know the name of it, but I.
That would be a great app. I don't know. Somebody should come up with
I
that.
don't have it on my phone because I don't want to make it cheating or like.
Jacob, there's an app for that. Ask Mrs. Sabo. Sadie has an app she can go on that it even gives all the steps. It tells you not just the answer, but every step.
It's a
Photo map?
Yeah, you like take a picture of the problem and then it tells you how to solve it. And like, you should do steps.
What?
It's red.
No, listen. Hold up. Logan, here's why it's fair. Because it's not your actual test, right? And it's kind of like in the back of the book, all the odd answers are in there. Why? Because it shows you, like, I do number 3, and I look back there, I got it right. I must be doing this right. General idea of the trial, not really. What's on trial?
Liam, I'm not bringing the flower, but I'm bringing the note.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna make a joke about it.
Well, I mean,
I'm
you
not
can
on the
get dry.
block. I can't charge that someone with big crime.
He's no, he was like this. He wasn't.
Wait,
I just gotta tell you.
there are people that cry, and lawyers who don't think about it. There are people that cry and they're like snot coming out of their nose. There are people
But
that
then he was
cry
Jerry with the
and
eye
they can't
was
even
bald
breathe
and
when they cry.
Oh, so when did you like grow up?
Are they having blood pressure spikes?
Mr. Frankie grew up in the era where you are allowed.
Well,
So,
early-
wait.
early 80s.
Early 80s?
I grew up in the 60s.
Did you ever like go to a Zeppelin concert?
I'm not a concert goer. Here's the concerts I went to.
Did you grow up in the 60s?
And any concert I went to was not because, it was because friends were going, they might even pay.
All right.
Billy Joel,
Oh.
you won't believe this. Because I would never take it. And I happened to be in,
All right.
I was in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Pink Floyd.
No, don't tell me. I performed.
Same word. Take it.
Motley Crue in White State.
On,
Motley Crue.
you don't know,
Motley.
Yeah,
You went to Motley Crue.
they were
is
drinking.
that crazy?
That is.
Where's the drummer, Tommy Lee, is that his name?
Yeah.
So, I had this, his drum set was like in the air and they would have it go like a rock.
Was it actually fun?
Actually, I'm not kidding. I really didn't have that much fun.
Really? Mr. Frankie, that was like Motley.
Juniors, home next room. Orders from on high. What's up, Luke? Luke. What's going on? Where's your next scrimmage? When was the last one? When this?
It was fine, but I didn't do that great.
Who was it?
Minerva. That was yesterday.
Minerva was yesterday?
Yeah.
You guys beat them, right?
Most of the time, I think.
You guys ain't gelling yet.
Yeah, question.
Your question? I know, I don't know what's good or not. How about, I don't know, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just kidding. Now, I would think after 2 months,
Yeah.
that no one's played it, it's not gonna be fun. Come back here. Feel good. All right.
Is there a meeting today?
Home ec room. Home ec, that was the orders from on high. Okay, what's up? Look at Mr. Schweinman. You wouldn't believe I spent the last 2 days. Listen, to make sure there's all, we're live, we're gone. No, it's not. Wait. There's been weeks, like, very rarely. That'll be 2/6. What's up? Yeah. Great answer. Next week, next week. Oh.
You just like, what's the thing for? Maybe it's horrible. I'm like, okay, good thing he left. Okay.
So now you got to call you.
I love this one. But it's so hard on my phone, I miss them a lot. No. And my phone. Yes. Yeah.
By the way, is that like the grades on Monday night? First service of the game. We're trying to force them to put down the game. They force them, coach offers that team. Like, they always go take her. The first series, Stafford throws a pick. Did you watch it on the night?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, dude, I know, I love it. He wrecks the Rams.
They get 2 receptions, he's great, is their number 3 receiver. He thought he was gonna be 2, he's not Jimmy. It throws it off. That team, I know, I love it. It's like, what would have been better is if we would have won still, but we got blown out. But if we still would have won. There's people that, listen, this is where I'm fighting against, because you got kids, you know? Maybe you think the same way, I don't know. Would you rather lose tennis? Was it that week before? Right. Okay, wait a minute. Is Mac Jones was great? Yeah. That's what he was the week before. Hey, who did he play? Better defense. We played a really good defense. What's that? Great. So we can still win it. Just gotta win out. Yeah, that was lost. Isn't it amazing that your senior year and just a balloon can still bring you joy? Like, isn't it weird? No, I know, I'm saying anybody. No, I'm talking, it's not just you. It's like what is it? Floats. All right.
understand it, so, keep doing what you're doing. There she is. Yeah. I would rather you show that. Yeah. I don't know, because I'm like, I'm seeing you.
Thank you, Mr. Chase. All right. See you later.
Johnny,
You okay?
wait a minute.
My goodness, you were out for 2 days.
I know.
The commies got you.
They're coming to take me away.
Yeah, they're going to take you away. You're
We were just talking about this yesterday. I said, I don't know, somebody was talking about the government. That they're tracking them. I go, first of all, if they see my Facebook, that's one thing. I go, do you know that my US history class goes out on YouTube Live every day? And I don't filter myself.
But hey, we could be getting to that point where like the Chinese.
Someone's gonna show up at the door here. Uh-huh. And say, Mr. Franklin, come look at me.
Holding the gun in the back of his.
So I should probably just teach CRT and stuff.
Oh, perfect, yeah.
I don't wanna
I
rough.
mean, really.
I don't want, I just want to.
I mean, white people have existed since before 1776, and
I just want to be safe.
Racism did start in this country. And
Yeah.
racism and slavery, just started in this country.
Mhm.
Really, all those past history of, like, even like how, like, work and slavery, that's how all the monuments of every single country got built in the first place. That doesn't mean anything. Slavery started in this country, and the whipping and the brutalness and treatment of just other races was absolutely terrible. Hitler was a bad person, But oh my goodness, the racism.
Oh,
in this
America's way
country.
worse.
I know. We're fascist, dirty fascist.
Well, you can make a case that the present situation is fascist.
Is there like anything
The last-
on the Rittenhouse case?
That's what I was thinking.
Did you see him? I was
He's got his finger on the trigger.
Yeah, he has his
In the middle, like he didn't learn anything from, what's his name, the actor.
And someone on Instagram said, someone who knows how to use firearms with a famous picture of Rittenhouse with his finger off the trigger, and then the guy waving around the AR in Norley. I've been laughing at him so many times. Ever since his bringing up of Rittenhouse TikToks and first-person shooters, I just think this guy's a joke. There's no way he's an actual, like, prosecutor. There's no way. I swear they just brought him up from the street, or he might just be like one of those, like, he's in Wisconsin. He's not in Portland. I would have said he was probably one of those people that lived in Chad or whatever.
Yeah.
But no. It would be way easier if we just went with the left, you know? It would be way easier, you know? Life wouldn't be so hard.
Yep,
We would achieve like the utopian state.
yes.
I know. And
He's so much safer.
it would be so much safer. And, you know, no one would just, we
mean-
wouldn't need government, we wouldn't need anything. Because all get what they deserve. We don't talk about the leadership because the leadership controls everything.
We are the leadership. It's us.
But I
We're all in
mean-
this together.
But I mean, we don't know who else has powers in the leadership to where they get more than what they deserve. Because, you know
What are you trying to
what?
say?
They
Are you trying to
treat-
say some pigs are more equal than others?
Yeah? You see that with Putin and whatever, so, I don't know. And communist China.
Get
Oh,
more
yeah,
equal.
did you know that the Chinese president is only paid like $12,000 in wage? Did you know
Is
that?
that
And
seriously, did somebody try to really pass that off as a?
Did you know that his daughter goes to Harvard? Wow, that's some. And they can get up to like 6 mil or like $3 to $6 million in like just, I don't know, outside information. Get like, hey, if you want to do this business deal, okay, I'll accept 3 mil and then you got my leadership. So he has his own posse, but you know.
Wait, do you feel like you actually had to argue?
Oh, I did.
Like someone was trying to make you think that?
No, it was just like,
President Xi only makes a certain amount of money?
well, it was just like giving examples about how China isn't really that great country.
No, I mean, the
That
teacher,
everyone else-
were they trying to make the point that he only makes?
Well, as soon as he said China has the best middle class, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna dismantle your point, and I'm gonna prove that the leadership is not what it seems.
Did you know that? And did you know that everyone in his party agrees with him and whatever he says? And if not,
Listen,
go bye-bye.
there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. You can make those statistics say, just buy anything you want. Like, I'm just picturing him
Why is
saying,
there
they got
so
the
much-
largest middle class. I can picture this,
Largest
whoever it
middle
is.
class, and there's this small percent.
Listen, I can picture him saying they have the largest middle class
Mm-hmm.
because they have the most people in the middle class.
Yes,
As if we don't know that China has almost 1.5 billion people.
yes. But also, everyone's in the middle class. That doesn't mean that they're paid like our middle class.
Right.
Because standard middle class is like below poverty.
Plus, we don't have slavery, or we don't condone,
We don't,
we don't have
you gotta be,
legalized.
gotta be careful using resources to your advantage, which means humans. And that's why Nike and Apple go over to those countries, so they don't have to deal with the unions in this country. Or just president taxes, you know? And you wonder why someone wanted all American business to come back. And now everyone's leaving again. I wonder why.
Yes.
I wonder why.
I wonder.
And then in the middle class, do you seriously see? It was like China Power was like a website, but I seriously used this to my advantage. All right, here's all of China's middle class. And then there's the small little upper class. And that's it. But then you see America, middle class, upper class. Why is that? And middle class, upper class.
Why do you have such a big upper class? It's only 1%.
Only 1%. Yeah, even though you only have to be considered to make $500,000 to be considered up in the upper class. And how many New Yorkers that live in New York have rent yearly that costs that much? It's a paradox. People,
It's a paradox. Really contradiction.
yes. People are just like, oh, I got you. And I'm just like, no, I know you're true. Like every single time I go into like this time, I actually go into each assignment writing notes, thinking that he's going to he's just like, all right, talk about Christian creation myths. Sorry, my bad. Same thing. And then the evolution of life. Do research on that, and then watch Buried Secrets of the Bible.
That's what you have to watch.
Yeah, me and my tutor looked it up. A Christian organization is suing PBS for ridiculing the Bible through one of their. So, and it's a 2 hours long.
Did you write a letter to President Trustman yet?
To President who?
Yeah, Jim Trustman, president of last year. Used to be the coach of the Buckeyes.
Nope.
You don't know Jim Trustman?
No, my tutor is gonna get in touch with, or email
the gospel and also be able to be expressed.
Can't we talk about just, the vibe?
The vibe.
Five. Normal.
I don't like talking Oh, yes.
Or we might have to sit.
You know how many times he has walked
I can't tell. Can I see if there's babies to be back? Right here.
Jimmy. Oh, that's 2%. I thought that was one big piece of pizza.
Yeah. Where's it from? Ours? He's one called Feel Good. All right, Dr. Feel Good. Amen.